Hello and welcome to Pacific Dialogue. I'm your host, Wen Han. The global economy has been in turmoil ever since Trump administration kicked off its trade war with the rest of the world. But what's really behind Trump's so-called reciprocal tariffs and his unpredictable diplomatic moves? And more importantly, can countries still find common ground and work together with the US? To find out, I talked to Jake Werner, an American international relations scholar. Jake was in Beijing for a short visit, a rare exchange, especially at a time when tensions between China and the United States are running high. He told me that Donald Trump wants to change the face of the United States. Here's what he had to say.
I think it would be helpful for the Chinese side to understand that U.S. is in the midst of a deep political turmoil right now. The Trump administration is challenging a lot of the kind of existing status quo institutions in the universities, in business community, the courts, the military. It has a very challenging reform agenda, and it wants to change the face of the United States. So I think this is primarily about what America is going to look like. It's not primarily about U.S. relations with China or U.S. relations with Mexico. Those are important considerations, but they're not what's driving developments right now. It came from a set of tensions within U.S. society that are getting worked out politically now. I think it certainly does represent a break with the nature of U.S. foreign policy since the 1980s. So about 40 years. The United States tried to maintain kind of a global system that the U.S. would be at the top of, and it would kind of regulate the economy and regulate political relations, and pursue a basic reform of the entire world in the direction of greater liberal democracy, greater free market economics. I think the Trump administration is putting an end to that. Some of the way that Trump is conducting himself, it just looks like he wants to be able to use the power of the United States to gain concessions from weaker countries. And if that's ultimately the system that they're aiming for, there's not that much institutionally that's needed. It would be a more bilateral kind of diplomacy that would be more about power than it would be about kind of trying to integrate people into a set of institutions. In the global economy, both countries are very deeply invested in global trade and investment. Of course, both countries face the threat of climate change. They have problems with transnational crime. They have an interest in stability so that we don't have catastrophic flows of migration. So there are just all of these similarities and common interests all over the place that people on both sides are having trouble recognizing. And I think if we could accept and recognize these similarities, it would be easier to empathize with the other side. And then that's kind of the starting point for trying to develop a shared agenda for addressing these problems. So I think there's a lot that each side could learn from the other, and ultimately a lot of these problems are only going to be addressed if the two countries can work with other countries around the world to address some of the structural problems in the global economy that are the source of these problems. And I think the alternative really is conflict, because the inequality and insecurity in the U.S. and China and other countries, that's ultimately what's driving a zero-sum sense that in order for me to be secure, other people will have to be insecure. And that makes conflict inevitable. So the only way to get out of conflict is to recognize that for me to be secure, other people have to be secure too. And that, I think, is the goal that we need to have when we work together on behalf of these shared interests.